In 2004, C Sports Racer began with the pole sitter Tony Lanuski taking the lead, and number 2 qualifier Jacek Mucha close behind. Further back in the field, we go on board with number 0 Jeff Miller as he gets past Eric Bastian. On lap 3, Mucha makes a move on leader Tony Lanuski, hoping it will stick. Then trouble for Miller as we take a spin with him, which could have been much worse. Up front, Lanuski bided his time and on lap 8 cut inside to retake the lead. Then with Mucha's gearbox failing, Tony Lanuski rolled before the checkered flag to the delight of his crew along pit wall, becoming the 2004 Runoffs gold medalist. If at first you don't succeed is an adage that also applies to racing. For Jacek Mucha, it means returning to the SCCA Runoffs to try to win a national championship title after finishing runner-up more than a few times. He's going to have plenty of competition, though, and beginning with Jeremy Treadway, a young man who races a lot of different kinds of cars, big ones, small ones, open wheels, and tin tops, but he returns to his roots, as he did in 1996, as a 16-year-old, the youngest ever to compete in the Runoffs at that time. Legendary engine builder Arnie Loining, his customers have over 30 national championships. Arnie's going to try to add another one as he gets behind the wheel.
It's not often you're surrounded by road racing royalty. Well, in CSR, there certainly is plenty of that. 63-year young Jim Downing is back club racing, first time since 1972, and boy, has he got an experience behind the wheel. In 1964, he sat on the very first pole, the very first Runoffs held at Riverside Raceway. These days, he's more importantly known for the Hans device and developing that safety device, which is so paramount to all divisions of racers nationwide. Rennie Clayton won the 2003 Formula Atlantic National Championship and also captured the prestigious SCCA President's Cup that same year. In his 30th national championship, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin's Jeff Miller will look to win his 7th gold medal today. He drove his self-built Windfirst Kohler-powered SCSR to 3rd at his home track of Road America earlier this year at the June Sprints, which he's won 10 times. Royalty indeed.
It's the 42nd running of the Sports Car Club of America's National Championship, a winner-take-all format, one race, 20 laps to determine a gold medal titleist here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The class is C Sports Racing, purpose-built race cars, and we are for the 12th time at Mid-Ohio's Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. A little bit of weather has moved into the area here today after a bright sunny week of practice and qualifying. We expect to go racing on a drying track, and let's take a look here at the layout at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with Jim Trado.
And, Brian, it really is going to be critical for these cars to get through. It's a bit wet on the course, yet a bit damp, but the passing zones going into turn 2 right here is critical. But keep in mind, there's concrete patches in each of these corners, so they have to negotiate through there to see what's dry, what's wet. So the opening laps could be critical for the cars back in the grid to make advances in these 2 red zones, primary passing areas. But keep in mind, the corners may be where it's done because of the slick surface of the concrete.
It's always a challenging track, but with a little bit of weather, it's going to be even more so, and changing conditions add yet another dimension. These are, as I mentioned, purpose-built road racing cars, and underneath what appears to be fairly similar bodies, they're quite different.
Indeed, there's 1,500cc bike engines, there's rotary engines. Also keep in mind there's chassis. Some are home-built, some are becoming more and more store chassis, radical speeds, more customer cars for these manufacturers.
And for some reports, before we get started, let's go first to John Bizignano.
Well, Eric Bastian, he's in this beautiful number 22 car. The blue of this car represents an awful lot of work for him to get here. It's his 2nd championship ever, his best qualifying in 4th place. Somewhat of a dark horse who could come forward, but he's a bit worried. He got to the grid very, very late. What were they doing? They were trying to get the right tires on the car. Right now, he's going out on slicks, guys. Let's hope he made the right decision. My old friend and pit partner, Sandy Hing.
Thanks, Biz. Keep an eye on this number 17 car of Mike Mallinen. Starting 5th on the grid here today. He's actually a downhill skiing expert. He's worked with the U.S. Olympic Ski Development Team. You know, Mike might be wishing he actually had a little expertise water skiing, depending on how this track stays wet or dry today. Back to you guys.
He also might use as an inspiration the fact that Phil Mayer, Olympic gold medal ski racing champion, won a GT1 title here at the Runoffs in 1991. Well, we've got C Sport Racing coming up after this. Coverage of the 2005 SCCA National Championship Runoff is brought to you by High Endurance Oils from Mobil, the oil that's changing oil. As the cars circulate the racetrack and trying to put a little bit of heat but not too much in the tires depending on what they've made, let's take a look at the starting grid. Jacek Mucha, in his bid to win a national championship, has qualified on the pole a half-second quicker than everybody else, but that was in the dry.
And keep in mind, Harvey Loining also has a car that's very fast. Last year, Tony Ladowski was able to run a very similar car to the gold medal.
As we look through the rest of our starting grid, an 18-car field here means it's going to be small but high quality. We expect the competition among these drivers to be extremely close as they are right now on the sighting lap.
You can see they're kind of searching their lines already. You see Jim Downing way on the outside there in that red, blue, and yellow car as they get formed up here in their formation lap.
And we're on board first with the number 26, Dan McBreen out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's in a Radical SR4 car, and he'll start 11th. He'll be back on row number 6 when they do line up. So for Dan McBreen, we'll be watching how busy his hands are with this onboard camera, and we'll be able to see the view in his rear view mirrors as well. Starting right alongside him, interestingly enough, the second of our onboard cameras in another Radical, and this is Mike McGinley out of Overland Park, Kansas. So he is going to give us a similar view, and we expect to see some good tight racing from him. And for a last-minute report, let's go once again to John Visignano.
Well, guys, as you can see, there's a lot of dark clouds just over my shoulder here, and they're building up quite rapidly. Now, the track dried out a bit in the first race. Right now, it would just be damp. But, of course, everyone went out on slick tires. If it starts to rain, we're going to be in trouble down here. We have rain tires in the pits, but a pit stop isn't going to help anybody here. Sandy Hang.
Just a minute ago, Brian Drebber was talking about Dan McBreen. He is actually a quicker car than appears. He was penalized 3 positions for one of the practice sessions he passed during the yellow. So that car is faster than it indicates. One of the poker games that's going on in the false grid is going on right out there right now. The tires. We have everything from slicks to intermediates to hand-carved slicks that are quasi-intermediates. So that could play a factor in the race today. Guys?
Tire choice so important, not only when the conditions maintain some consistency, but when it changes like this constantly. The crew guys are tearing their hair out, and the drivers are probably, just upside down trying to figure out what to use. As we get ready for the start, our starter has a close eye on the field. If they are bunched to his satisfaction, the green flag will wave, and it does. Jacek Mucha leads the cars away from the starting grid, but Arnie Loining in the red car on the outside has an equal run down into turn number 4. It looks like Mucha wiggling all over the place. Loining a little smoother around the outside. Mucha goes around, takes a couple of cars off the track with him, and Arnie Loining, and look at this, the attrition has not ended yet. Everybody's off in the, well, not everybody, but half the field, it seems, off in the grass in turn number 4. They're starting to get going again, and with these C-Sport racer cars and maybe an inch of ground clearance, motocrossing through the dirt is not a good idea.
And Jacek Mucha's car, you can see that tail section was extremely long on his car. That really blocked the racetrack. Going into this turn now, down into the S's, they touch side by side. Musek goes around, and then everybody else really just scrambles out of his way. You see the other 2 cars coming off of there. Unfortunately, we're just caught up in the incident. Here we go again. See how wide his car is? As he blocks the track, cars are going this way, cars are going that way. And unfortunately, the track was blocked long enough for 4 cars to get off in the grass.
Just a little loose coming into the turn number 4. Hard braking zones. First lap, you can understand. Here's another look from on board, a little bit further back, and some contact there between Dan McBreen, who's carrying our onboard camera.
McBreen again in that black car really had it together, but look at how far outside he is. He's right here coming into this. That's how far back he is as he approaches the crash. He's committed to the outside here, and you can see now he's in the grass, and the car that spins next to him really takes him out of contention there.
It was a second of our onboard cameras now as Mike McGinley is sawing on the steering wheel. He was able to keep it together and in between the grassy strips on both sides, and so he is definitely in there. But now we're walking away from the race car. That is Jacek Mucha, number 07, the pole sitter, out of the race in the first real turn of the racetrack.
He's won 13 national races this year in 2 classes. It's amazing he has yet to win his first national championship.
Sandy Hang can add.
Well, actually, Jacek Mucha started on slicks. Arnie was on slicks, and right behind them, Rennie Clayton was on intermediate. They just did not know exactly what the track was going to be like, so they weren't prepared. But it looks like they weren't as prepared as they would have liked to have been. Again, this could play out a little more even during the race.
Watching our leader, Arnie Loining, and this is the number 12 car, the youngster Treadway, Jeremy Treadway, who drives, he has driven some stock cars. He runs in some of the Sports Car Association classes, and he is now out in front, has taken the lead from Arnie Loining. Loining on slick, still looking for dry parts of the racetrack, and Jeremy Treadway, we don't know what tires he's got on, but he's perhaps trying to take advantage of whatever he's picked to open up a gap.
And Arnie Loining, again, he builds a lot of motors, builds a lot of things for other teams, and in terms of racing in the wet, Treadway, with all that experience, may have just said, I need to take advantage now to get by Arnie. Arnie Loining, more of a veteran behind the scenes than behind the wheel.
Arnie Loining, certainly the more veteran engine builder, but Treadway, much more experience behind the wheel, at least recently. Arnie Loining has not competed actively for a couple of decades, and he decided he wanted to come out and see what this driving thing was all about. He gets his people to tell him, his customers tell him how much fun they're having behind the wheel. He decided to go for it. This is the number 0 car, and it is Jeff Miller, the only former champion in the field, is in the pits. We'll be back.
Rennie Clayton had that great run back in 03 in Foreman Atlantic where the rear wing was falling off the car. He limped it home to a great victory that year. It kept everyone on their toes during the entire broadcast. But now C Sports Racing is where you'll find Rennie. Why the change?
Well, there's a lot of challenge, I think, that really attracted me to this class. In the past couple of years, there's been a huge influx of talent in car development.
And for a person like yourself, is that what you go after, trying to fine-tune the aerodynamics, the suspension, the engine? Every part of this package has to be perfect.
Absolutely, and especially when you're driving a DSR against Atlantic conversions, there's a huge amount of concentration that has to go on, and it really makes you raise your game.
Well, he's proven he's a champion. Now let's see if he can do it in C Sports Racer.
Unfortunately for Rennie Clayton, not today. When you're out of the race car and aren't wearing your helmet, it's pretty tough to continue competing. He's being shown in 17th position, but clearly his day has ended just a little bit early.
He was one of those 4 cars caught up when Jacek Mucha got together Loining, but keep in mind, Rennie came here really as a last-minute deal, renting a car from a store factory team that just said, hey, we want to put this deal together, came back very late, so unfortunately for him, no gold today like he did in 03.
How about this race up front now? Arnie Loining, who was passed pretty quickly by Jeremy Treadway in the first lap of the race, has now gotten his rhythm together, and he's given the youngster all he can handle right now. Up the front straightaway, Treadway's car pretty quick. Loining won't like that as an engine builder, but he's chasing him down in the corners, it seems, and we've got a race up front for the gold medal.
There may have been a whole half a second straightaway bulge there. It almost closed up in the S's, so it appears that straightaway speed is Treadway's forte right now, but Loining was eating him up in the S's in the carousel.
Going back just a little bit further in the field, a 10th place battle going on. The 99 car of Harold Grafton has just gotten by the 22 of Eric Vassian, who we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Now, and he's starting to pull away, so clearly the changing track conditions and tire choices are the single biggest factor in why positions are being swapped.
Now we see entering the carousel here. The track looks fairly dry. They're actually using all the concrete patch in the corner now. So as the track dries up, the guys that picked those slicks, Treadway, I believe, is one of those based upon his burst of speed early on here. It really is coming in well for those guys that guessed on the slicks, not the intermediates or the wet.
Up the front straightaway, the 08 car is Joe Horvath, watching this bright green automobile, who apparently did not get the memo about green race cars. But
he's had, however, more experience than some of these guys as a Central Division guy. It's his 3rd time here this year at Mid-Ohio.
And another battle going on right now between the number 25 car and the 26 car, rather, and that is McBreen carrying one of our onboard cameras, Dan McBreen, out of Atlanta, Georgia. And he is racing there with the number 16 of Goldkind, and those two have swapped spots a couple of times over the last lap, as we are now 6 laps into this 20-lap race.
Considering McBreen was turned around sideways in turn 4 at the start of this race, he's doing a great job powering his way back through now to 6th.
Well, a lot of attrition has played itself into his hands because cars in front of him are going back. We go to the leaders once again. Treadway on the outside, squares it up, comes back in, and this is where Arnie Loining, by just keeping the wheels in line, is railing around behind him. He's closed the gap up to 0. Got a better run off of turn number 2 through the kink in 3, down into 4. Let's see who's brave on the brakes in the hardest stopping part of the racetrack.
Into the S's, this is a primary passing zone. We see the outside to Treadway, a bit more burst on the straightaway at the very end. The top end is working for Treadway, able to hold him off, but again, Loining very fast in these quick left and right-hand corners called the S's.
Boy, he pulls it right up inside and almost showed a fender to Jeremy Treadway out in front. Again, we're talking about Arnie Loining, who has been around for decades, mostly as an engine builder and a fellow that puts cars together for other people. Now he's gotten behind the wheel of what we would assume is a very well-prepared car of his own, and he's given Jeremy Treadway, an experienced professional driver, all he can handle. Looked up alongside of him again right there, but Treadway holds him off, as you say, a little more top end perhaps at the end of the straightaway. Maybe a gearing difference or something like that between these two, but they're closely matched, not only on paper, but out here on the racetrack. First and second place, nose to tail at Mid-Ohio. Up the front straightaway now, Arnie Loining running through just a little. There's one little depression of water there, and Jeremy Treadway in the number 12 car is holding him off for the time being. The Stonebridge Sports and Classics sponsored Malloy chassis is in the lead. The SCCA's National Championships for the 12th straight year at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. 42 years of history in this wonderful event, as we are in the C Sport Racing class, and we have got a tremendous battle going on up front between a veteran engine builder and driver Arnie Loining in the bright red car and a young man in his mid-20s, and that is Jeremy Treadway in the number 12 car, holding on to the lead for the time being. But this is getting very entertaining, Jim Trado.
Not even halfway. Treadway again burst on the scene through the field and took the lead away from Arnie Loining, but now it's a matter of who is stronger, where Loining has had the opportunity to see how Treadway enters these corners. Now Treadway's taking a more conservative inside line, feeling that heavy pressure from behind.
And getting into a little bit of traffic, which here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course means you've got to pick your way around, and they do. The 99 car is Harold Grafton, and he goes a lap down, or is about to go a lap down here as they weave back on the inside. Corner workers are waving those blue flags here and there so that drivers that know they're about to be lapped are made absolutely aware of that. They can see them coming in the mirrors, and the flags just confirm it. Treadway has the wide load sign on up there in the keyhole. And down the back straightaway.
Now keep in mind, this is another passing area. Loining doesn't have that top end, but he had a great exit off the keyhole here to see if he can get on Loining now in that red car and running in second. Trying to gain position here, but you can see Treadway just wide enough, not giving him a full width as they enter the S's.
Jeremy Treadway holds on to the lead. Arnie Loining has shown him faked left and gone right. He's faked right and gone left. He's done everything he can, and he's certainly trying to set him up. We're still in the first half of this race, and you have to figure that something is going on out there that Arnie Loining can work on. Let's go to John Bizignano. What's up, Biz?
Well, the number one fan for that 12 car, of course, is Tara Treadway. Tara, you don't look nervous at all. What a battle. Are you used to seeing your husband go nose to tail like this?
I am. I love it.
When it came to choosing the tires, who made that choice? And you are on intermediates. At first we thought you were on slicks, but you are on intermediates.
We are on intermediates. The crew chief, my sister Mike Niccolo, made that choice. We looked at the track. He just thought that was our best bet.
If it starts wearing out, are you going to be worried about that? The track starts drying out?
No. I think the intermediates in that groove too deep, so we should be okay. And if the track heats up, they'll withstand, so we're all right.
All right, a lot of confidence down here, guys, and she loves this battling. You know, you would think that she'd want a little bit of cushion there, but the closer they get, the more excited she is.
Well, right now, you couldn't put another C Sport Racer car in between Jeremy Treadway and Arnie Loining, who smokes the brakes a little bit. Goes into the keyhole hard, comes right up behind Treadway, and Arnie Loining is definitely letting Jeremy Treadway know he's there in every way possible.
And keep in mind, all the years he has customers coming back to him, Arnie, I need more power here. This is not working on the top end. Arnie's using all that knowledge and now the data coming to form with his right foot, left foot, and really trying to make this car work.
Arnie Loining trying to make another move here as they go into the hard braking zone. Let's go to Sandy Hang.
I'm with Sam Clayton right now as crew chief. You know, Arnie is kind of modest about his driving ability, but he's showing us here today he's really got it. Tell us about that.
Yes, it's definitely age and experience versus youth and enthusiasm, but Arnie's been to the runoffs many, many times over the last 40 years, and he's a crafty old fox.
Now, Stan, also, I know you've got a lot of experience with Atlantics. How has that helped you crew for him on this event?
Well, the 008 upon which this car is based, the Swift 008, is one of the best Atlantic cars, and by adding the bodywork, we actually reduce the drag and increase the downforce. So all we got to do is trim a little of that out, and it runs just like an Atlantic.
Now,
Well, I think that was clearly the right decision. The guys that went out on reins at first changed them all in the pits to dry. We never did put reins on this morning because I knew that the track would dry out. I've been here a number of times, and I was confident that it would be good to go.
That's Dan Clayton, guys.
Up alongside for the first time, Jeremy Treadway gets a view of the entire race car, number 27 of Arnie Loining. Then Loining drops back in behind him, and a crafty old fox is playing a very, very cagey game here.
Down the backstretch, we see a lap car ahead of them. We'll see if it plays a factor. Two cars, as a matter of fact. We'll see the 12 now. Treadway trying to tuck in, trying to get that advantage, or will get picked.
Oh, this is always a tense moment when you've got some traffic down in the hardest braking zone on the racetrack. Treadway makes a mistake, looked like he missed a gear. Arnie Loining given an easy move to the front.
He's on the pace.
He's got a very big problem now. It looked like he might have just missed a gear, but something is definitely wrong with the number 12 car of Jeremy Treadway. It has slowed down, and Arnie Loining may indeed be able to add a national championship as a driver to those he won as an engine builder. In case you're just joining us here for C Sport Racing's National Championship runoff, that green flag started all the trouble, and it sometimes does. Jacek Mucha going around in turn number 4, which is really the first racing turn of the track, and attrition definitely took its toll there.
Here's another look at it from the in-car camera. 4 cars go off in the grass. Actually, this is among them. One of our in-car guys, unfortunately, having a better day. Dan McBreen back on track.
When you've got some traffic down in the hardest braking zone. And a lead change as Jeremy Treadway, who had led most of this event of passing Arnie Loining on the very first lap. Jeremy Treadway with a problem and made the pass for the lead, did Arnie Loining. Here's a pass for 4th spot as number 55, Richard Cottrell makes a move. And there is Jeremy Treadway standing behind some of the workers over there on the racetrack and dejected. Yes, we understand that. When something goes wrong with the car, Jim Trado, as a driver, your heart just sinks.
And think about what this young man did. He came from 7th on the grid to lead by lap 3. Yes, there was those cars off the racetrack, but he weeded his way through there and got by Arnie Loining and really burst out to about a 10-15 car length lead and just set his pace.
John Bizignano?
Well, the problem with Jeremy, he radioed into the team. He said the car just shut off. But actually, they've been having a little bit of problem with the engine all weekend long, and the crew chief said it didn't shut off, it really blew up. So there was definitely a failure in the back of that car.
Generically referred to as the failure of an essential mechanical part. That is always the explanation. And now we have Arnie Loining, number 27, out in front. We can be pretty sure that he built the engine in that car, and if it stops, he has no one to blame but the guy behind the wheel.
You know, as crew chief mentioned, this Atlantic body, the Atlantic car, Formula Atlantic cars, Toyota Atlantic cars, are open-wheel cars. In C-Sport Racing and D-Sport Racing, there really are bodied Formula Atlantic cars, and if you get aerodynamic match to an open-wheel Formula Atlantic car, which is the fastest division here at the runoffs, I'd say you're doing a whole lot with aerodynamics with these full-bodied Defender cars that are really Atlantics underneath.
On board for a moment there with the number 96, Mike McGinley out of Overland Park, Kansas, in a Superior Chevrolet-sponsored Radical SR4 chassis. He's about 27 seconds behind Arnie Loining, but he's only 1 tick of the clock ahead of 3rd place, number 55, Richard Cottrell, as we watch Mike McGinley working very well with that car, and he has to know that Cottrell is in his mirrors if he glances at either of them on the fender of the car.
Entering the carousel here, you get a good look now. The track is very, very dry. The concrete areas, even the main lines are all dry. The darker areas remain a bit damp, but there's still grip there. You don't see a lot of rooster tails or any sort of spray coming off the tires at this point in the race.
And all the cars are using most of the concrete patches now, which tend to be slicker before the asphalt parts of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Under the bridge, turn number 1. It goes Cottrell with the number 55. Good-looking race car there, that number 55 machine. A Realtech Racing sponsored Speeds RSO4 chassis. He's on Hoosier tires, and tire choice clearly was the story of this race, although we understand that with Arnie Loining on slick tires, maybe it was a matter of time before he passed Jeremy Treadway with the intermediate tires. This driver, Cottrell, was one of those who spun out on the early lap.
And here it is. It's actually on the pace lap. The cars are just forming up the track a bit darker, and you see just got in the dark area. So Cottrell really kind of got upset, not on tire choice, but upset before they even got to the green, saying, man, what am I doing wrong? He's now getting it right.
Well, he did everything right once the green flag flew. He started in the number 55 car well back in the field on row number 7 and is all the way up into 3rd spot right now, challenging, well, not quite yet, but he's in a position to challenge for the runner-up spot and a silver medal at these runoffs. Richard Cottrell running his best time. His last lap was 1:28, about a second slower, and he's got a second or two to make up. Here's your leader, Harvey Loining. What a great story should he go to victory lane. The SCCA's national championships at Mid-Ohio Sports Car course continue with C Sport Racer. And the man out in front, number 27, Harvey Loining, legendary engine builder, is about to turn himself into a legendary race car driver because it only takes one victory at the SCCA Runoffs. You're in the record book forever.
His best finish here was back in 1981. He finished third in a Formula Ford. So this thing has a lot more bodywork, a lot more speed. Certainly a very, very fast race car.
And Harvey Loining doing a masterful job of staying smooth. That is a key when you've got weather conditions changing as they have here. While the weather itself has been pretty consistent, the track surface has gone from extremely dry in practice and qualifying, bright sunshine, to extremely wet this morning when it rained like crazy. Now it's quit raining for the most part, but the air is still heavy with moisture, and the track is still damp in spots, although the racing line is mostly dry. Harvey Loining has dealt with all of it. He pressured Jeremy Treadway into what could have been a real race for the win. But Treadway's exit from the race with mechanical problems has handed Harvey Loining really pretty much several laps of honor at this point.
And his lead is building now, over 30 seconds over McGinley. Again, McGinley started 12th, but keep in mind he avoided that first lap accident. Yes, there's attrition, but he has kept it clean between the grass lines here on this racetrack.
And we're seeing a change for the number 3 spot as Cottrell's number 55 car has begun to move backward a little bit. And Eric Bassian out of Atlanta, Georgia, who we mentioned at the beginning of the show, has moved up into that medal position now with a bronze medal possibility. And in fact, he's not that far behind the second place car of McGinley. We've got a three-way battle going here for the runner-up spot in the race.
On the grid, Biz talked about how much it would mean for Bastian and these guys to really pay off a long week of work. These cars come here, they arrive on Monday and practice. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday practice sessions equal a qualifying run. Your best lap in those practice times combined over those 3 days determine the lineup. So as much work as they've done, perhaps this is their best moment now at the peak at the end of the week.
So Cottrell now running in 4th position, just outside the medal count. Ahead of him, Bassian and McGinley are the runners-up to Harvey Loining, who is well on his way to winning that national championship as he has completed 15 laps of the race with a 30-second advantage over second place. He really doesn't have to push very hard. All he has to do is start listening for those imaginary noises.
But keep in mind, we saw Harvey Loining very smooth and very consistent on the racetrack. Now he may be trying different lines as he now knows that the track line is his to take. And I'm sure the crew is radioing, hey, we got a 30-second lead. If you want to try entering a bit slower, try to keep that car straight. Don't try to get in the wet this time at this point in the race.
And here is the battle for second position. The number 96 is McGinley. That's Mike McGinley out of Kansas. And right behind him, it is Eric Bassian. We're on board with Mike McGinley looking at a lap car, and he saw it on the wheel there in the keyhole that leads onto the back straightaway. We could have a real nice little drafting duel, although these C-Sport racer cars don't throw a lot of draft. They're very, very efficient cars in the breeze, and they don't really create much of a calm pocket of air behind them. They got a wing on the back. Here comes Bassian out of the draft, trying to use a lap car, hoping McGinley's going to get balked up a little bit in the turn. Doesn't happen. McGinley holds on to the spot, and the lap Joe Horvath, green car, stays in front of both of them.
We mentioned Formula Atlanta cars underneath, but really there's become a tradition now of store chassis, radical chassis, speeds. These guys are making cars that are very fast in C-Sports racing. We see here now the battle of McGinley in a radical chassis. You see the bodywork difference, very smooth front nose for the 22 of Bastian. That is a radical chassis, a radical body.
Oh, and McGinley goes around right in front. Just as we are about to go to commercial break, we were getting ready to do that, and just as you saw, Mike McGinley takes the number 96 car out of second position into the tire wall, and wow, you can go from the penthouse to the outhouse in a big hurry here on a wet but even drying racetrack. Serious damage to the front of the car, and you know a disappointed driver behind the wheel.
As the pressure builds again, that's a very off-camber corner. Corner 9 is heading down to Thunder Valley. And unfortunately, as that car got over the hill, all things let loose.
And he's motioning to the corner workers. We'll take a look at what happened. Here's the look from outside the race car onto the concrete patch.
Up and over the corner again. It's a high point. It almost unloads the car a bit as he gets back on the gas and just steers to the right. Either something broke or perhaps the left side's dropped, but man, was it a quick turn for him.
And on board, you're going to get a fly's eye view here.
Keep an eye on the left-hand side of the car if he gets off the track.
Oh, yeah.
The car just lifted as he got back on the gas. Around it went, trailing throttle oversteer, I think it's something like that, where the actual car lifted off the air and it got back on the gas. The tires came down full patch, and away he went.
You can hear the revs come up as it did unload. Gravity was not his friend. Mike McGinley wrecking out of the runner-up spot. And we'll be back.
The name Loining is associated with more than 30 championships here at the Runoffs. Loining, the engine builder, that is, but Arnie Loining, the engine builder, is driving this year. For the first time in more than 20 years, he's back in the cockpit. What's it like to be back as a driver?
Well, it's fun to come back and compete with all my customers.
And what do they think about you driving?
Most of them didn't know I knew how to drive. They're surprised.
He does know how to drive. Back in the 80s, his best place finish was a second place. And imagine with the championship, how many more engines he could sell.
Jim Trado, I'm thinking that the stock on Loining engines is going up with every passing lap. 3 more, and he's going to have a line at the door when he gets home.
And think about this. Everybody wants to hire the next youngest phenom. This guy's got it down, and he's not the youngest guy out there, but he's got some serious talent behind the wheel as well.
Arnie Loining has had no problems whatsoever until about midway in this race when he was pressuring Jeremy Treadway that was leading, and then Treadway exited with mechanical problems. Since then, Arnie Loining hanging on to about a half-minute lead here on a lap that takes a minute and a half. So a third of the racetrack in hand for Arnie Loining right now. It shows no signs of slowing down. He is still running the fastest lap of anybody on the track, and he could afford to slow down 5 seconds a lap and still bring it home in first place. We've got a bunch of changes back in second and third spot as Eric Bassian, of course, inherited the number 2 spot with the exit of McGinley. And now we have number 16, Bill Goldkind, out of Holbrook, New York, in a Crestwood Metals car. He's running in third spot. We're looking at McBreen here on board, who's back in 8th position. He went off the track in the lap 1 shunt, but he has managed to fight his way forward and then lost a couple of spots right now. He is behind the number 21 car of David Watson. Also out of the northern part of the country, specifically the northern part of the United States, which we call Canada.
Kleinburg, Ontario. So keep in mind, all these guys converge from all over the country. Arnie Loining comes here. This is his first runoff since his home track at Road Atlanta in 1982. If you think about it, he's got to learn this track just like everybody else does if they've not raced here or done a national event here this season.
Well, he had all week to practice. Now he's got one more lap for a tour de force. Arnie Loining crosses the start-finish line in first place while we ride with 8th place, number 26, Dan McBreen out of Atlanta, Georgia. There is Arnie Loining on his final lap, and you know that the crowd and certainly his crew and fans are going to be cheering him around this racetrack for the final circuit. Up into the keyhole one last time. Flawless driving from the first lap to the last. Arnie Loining has just turned one of his faster laps of the race, and it's still faster than everyone else. 1 minute and 25 seconds for the man leading by a half a minute. Arnie Loining in the number 27, and you have to figure that up in Portland, Oregon, Loining's Engine Service has put just a little extra care into preparing a car for the boss, and the boss has repaid them in kind by driving it like a master.
Up Thunder Valley for the final time. We see him sweeping through this corner. Very, very strong run. Very little offline running at all for him. He was dead set on the mark all race long.
And there are those who are most interested in Arnie Loining as he brings it home. He comes around the carousel. He'll make a left-hand turn and greet the flag, the checkered flag, the one he's been looking for. Arnie Loining wins his first SCCA National Championship as a driver, and he does add that title to those that he has earned as an engine builder. What a great story, what a great finish, and what a fine race by Arnie Loining.
This car was put together extremely well. Again, Tony Ladusky last year had a very similar car, so there was a lot to learn from that as he and Jacek Mucha had the 2 fastest cars last year. Arnie Loining and Jacek Mucha, unfortunately, contact on lap 1 prevented what could have been a great run, as both of those cars were the cream of the crop in speeds all week long.
Our runner-up now is Eric Bassian. We had enough time to talk about Arnie Loining because of his big lead. Here is our silver medalist out of Atlanta, Georgia, in a Radical South, a Radical chassis machine on Dunlop tires here this week. And he brings it home in second position, a very happy man. who started pretty deep in the field. Vassian actually on row number 2. Oh. And there is Arnie Loining, has parked the race car on the track for reasons unknown. And let's go to Sandy Hang.
I'm with Stan Clayton, and here's Jeannie, his wife. I'm telling you, you didn't want to talk on TV, but we're going to make you. This is a big deal. What are you thinking right now?
He finally won.
But you knew he could.
Well, he always could, but that didn't mean he would.
He's always busy building engines.
No, you never know what's going to happen. Until the checkered flag, you never know what's going to happen.
Here's Jeannie. She's proud, and I know Stan Clayton, you're proud too. This is your second championship, one with your son, and now one with Arnie.
Yeah, and Arnie's a longtime friend, so this is a real treat. I'm an emotional guy about racing, and this is just a crowning touch. And I'm really glad I could do this for Arnie.
Congratulations to y'all, and I know you're running because you want to hand him the checkered flag.
You bet. I'm on it.
Well, they're going to have to run a ways because Arnie has stopped out on the racetrack. I'm going to bet that they measured just enough fuel to make 20 laps, and they forgot to add one for a victory celebration. Let's go down to John Bizignano at the second place pit.
Hey, Kirk Criddle, congratulations on a great second place here. You've been working for this for a long time.
Yeah, we've been trying several years now, and Eric just made a great drive. He went off first lap and dropped down, I think, 12th, and had to work his way back, so we made it.
You said that there's a lot of handling problems. You changed the motor on the car?
No, it wasn't handling problems. It's a brand new car. It just came from the Radical factory last week.
That's not the way to go to the championship. You know that.
No, it isn't, and I told Eric that, but he didn't believe me, but it worked. We got a PowerTech motor in it. We dropped a brand new motor in it yesterday afternoon. It's the first time it's turned a wheel on the track in the race.
Congratulations on a great effort.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, that kind of says it all, as the runner-up didn't think he had what it took, but the winner certainly did. They're going to bring him back on the hook. When they do, we'll hear from Arnie Loining, the winner of the C Sport Racer National Championship, his first title coming back after 20 years behind the wheel. Coverage of the 2005 SCCA National Championship runoff is brought to you by High Endurance Oils from Mobil, the oil that's changing oil. Take a look at the top 5 as we bring more than a few cars back to victory lane and to the finish line. There's Jeremy Treadway's car. He led this race early on. He's coming back on the hook after watching his principal contender, Arnie Loining, win the national championships. And Arnie Loining's name will appear at the top of the list here as the national champion and gold medal winner, along with Eric Vassian, who will take the silver, and Bill Goldkind, who will earn the bronze. Jim Downing, who also returned as a driver after a significant absence, rounds out the top 5. Let's go to John Bizignano with our runner-up.
Hey, Eric, you're not supposed to be running off the track and making it in a second. We have a beautiful medal here for you. Congratulations on what a great drive. I think you came by in 12th or something the first lap.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I was just trying to drive through that sand trap once I knew I was going off, just to make sure I could get out and maybe keep going, you know. So.
But no one ever comes out of that sand trap. How'd you make it out of there?
Probably the new nose on this Radical right here, which has got a carbon under tray that just skidded over the top of it. I think that helped me a lot. So I was able to get out. I got back on the road. I think the car had a major push on the left or the right from getting hit, and it was just hard for me to even keep the car around the track, but just tried to be smooth and came in. So
congratulations on a great run.
Thank you very much.
Guys, he's very, very happy.
As he should be. They say adversity is to the spirit as exercise is to the body. Eric Vassian got a workout today and made it work.
What a great run for him. We mentioned the guys coming back through. Bill Goldkind coming through, the Northeast champion, now getting a medal. I mean, this has been a great year for him. These guys worked all year long to qualify to get to the runoffs. He captured the bronze medal today.
The first 9 cars were still moving at the end of this race. A first-lap shunt took out quite a few. Mike McGinley crashed himself out of second position and still ends up with a top 10 finish because of all the attrition. But the name at the top of the list here is one that people have been waiting for quite a while. Arnie Loining and Jeremy Treadway, again, leading the race early on, out with mechanical problems, ends up in 11th spot. And you can see the only former champion in the field, Jeff Miller, also taken out early, and Jacek Mucha, the very first to go around. Let's go back down to John Bizignano with our bronze medalist.
I'd like to say a little bit more.
You're allowed. Bill, congratulations on a great third-place finish.
Thank you so
Bill
much.
Gold King, what a great run for you.
so
Now, what's
much.
this about you being too old to do this? I don't think so.
That's what they tell me, but I finished. It's unbelievable.
You lost something during the race?
I did. I dropped my finger.
Oh, my gosh.
In the car or on the track.
Now, haven't you? Have you checked your glove?
It's not in the glove, but I'm going to ask the corner workers if they find it out there.
I'll tell you, those are the 4 fastest fingers on this track, buddy. Congratulations on a great run.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I watch your program. I watch you guys all the time, and it's unbelievable to finally be there.
Thank you. Sandy Hang, he was saying that for you, I think.
Well, I tell you what, I'm here with the winner. Gene is about to put the medal on Arnie Loining. This is a long time in coming and definitely well-deserved. Congratulations, Arnie.
Well, I don't know what to say, really. It quit several times on me, and I couldn't believe I made it across the finish.
Well, you know, this is the first time that any of us can remember in a decade that the winner had to get towed back to the start-finish line.
It was an engine failure.
Well, you know, when you fail after the race, it doesn't really matter, does it?
That's right.
When you take the checkered. What happened out there? You know, you and Jeremy were just going at it. What a race. What were you thinking? You were just all over the back.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was trying real hard, and I couldn't really pass him down the straight, so I figured I'd just harass him and hope something happened. I think his engine blew up.
Well, it must have worked because you took the checker here. Now, you were telling me before the race that you wouldn't have run this season had it not been for a customer of yours who said, hey, I got a car hanging around.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, Bob Stalling said he didn't need the car, so I could just keep it for the year and run it, and I figured, well, why not? You know, it'd be a lot of fun, and here I am.
And here he is. Congratulations again, Arnie Loining, a champion here at the SCCA Runoffs. Biz?
Richard Cottrell, right? Correct? Yeah, Cottrell, I'm sorry. Congratulations on a great run, 4th place for you. What was it like out there in those first couple laps? Everyone was everywhere, and somehow you made it through.
Yeah, it was very greasy to start with, but the Speed's car is really, really good in the wet and the slippy stuff.
Were you happy with your tire choice?
Yes, the tire choice was definitely the correct one to go on slicks. The car worked really well.
Well, congratulations again, and this is your first runoffs, and I hope you have a great success for many years to come here, mate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We had our congratulations to all of the finishers in this race, the ones that'll go home with tales to tell, and especially Arnie Loining. So understated, but clearly very happy with his performance here today, Jim.
And really, if you think about it, he was very calm about all year. He won the NORPAC Championship. So if you run consistently, run well, coming into this weekend, there's not a lot of worries. We talked about how much Vassian went through to get here. Looks like Arnie kind of had a program in place, and it really paid off for him.
Well, with a gold medal around his neck, Arnie Loining can say, I earned a championship as a driver to go along with more than a few as an engine builder. Let's go back down to John Bizignano.
Jim Downey, you have more experience at this track than any 3 drivers here, I would think. Excuse me for giving you that honor. What was it like out there? That first lap was pretty hairy for even you.
Well, you know, all these guys went by me down in turn 7,
yeah, we saw it.
and when I arrived, there was a giant wreck, which I just threaded my way through, and you know, I went from 10th to 5th, you know, in one turn.
And I think you have the only car here that's virtually untouched. There's not a mark on it.
Well, you know, my painter's a mean guy. He's a real mean guy, and if I do that, he chews me out.
Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
Well, with some images of the early laps in this race, the first turn after the green flag is where much of the action took place and where Jeremy Treadway came to a halt after leading the early laps in this one. So for Jeremy Treadway, an unfortunate finish to the race, and for several others, the same. But for Arnie Loining, he did what he came here to do, win a championship, and he'll go home as an SCCA Runoffs titleist.